Welcome back to the deep dive today. Today we are doing something massive. And I don't mean massive in the sense of, a breaking news story or a 1,000-page history book.
No.
I mean massive in the sense of the final exam.
The grand finale, the capstone.
Exactly, the summit. We are diving into Chapter 18 of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, we've touched on the Gita before, and for those tracking the saga, we know the setup. Prince Arjuna, the warrior, is having a total meltdown in the middle of a battlefield.
A complete crisis of conscience.
Right. He's got family on the other side, he's got duty on this side, and he is just paralyzed. And Krishna, his charioteer and guide, has been talking him off the ledge for 17 chapters.
That is the scene. And it's incredibly intense. The whole universe is kind of holding its breath.
But Chapter 18, this one feels different. It's titled Mokshasanyasa Yoga, which translates to the yoga of liberation and renunciation. Honestly, reading through the source material this week, it felt like the summary statement.
It did.
It felt like the mic drop of the entire text.
It really is. Contextually, it's fascinating because if you zoom out, nothing has actually happened yet in the plot.
That's wild.
We are 18 chapters deep. That's 700 verses of intense philosophy, psychology, theology, and the war still hasn't started.
That is wild to think about. The arrows are knocked, the conch shells have been blown, the armies are screaming, and then just freeze frame.
Complete freeze frame. Time stands still for this dialogue.
Right.
And now we are at the very end of it. And what's so interesting is that Chapter 18 isn't triggered by a new crisis or some new enemy appearing.
No.
It's triggered by a clarifying question. Arjuna basically says, okay, Krishna, I think I've got it. But before we actually start fighting, can we just go over the definitions one last time?
That's like checking your parachute right before you jump out of the plane.
Yeah.
You want to be absolutely sure you know which cord to pull.
That's a perfect analogy. And the question he asks in verse 1 is incredibly specific. He wants to know the difference between two Sanskrit words that, to the untrained ear, sound pretty much the same.
They sound like synonyms.
Exactly. He asks about sannyasa and tyaga.
Right, renunciation versus relinquishment. And I have to admit, when I first looked at this, my first thought was, Arjuna, buddy, really? The army is charging. Do we really need a dictionary definition right now?
Is this the time for semantics?
Yeah. Why does he care so much about this distinction? Why is this the launch pad for the entire finale?
Because it's not just semantics. This is the core practical dilemma of the spiritual life. It's the difference between running away from your life to find peace and learning how to live in your life without being completely destroyed by it.
Okay, now that hits home.
Think about it. Arjuna is stressed out of his mind. He has to kill his cousins. He has to fight a war he doesn't want to fight. His initial instinct, which he voices way back in Chapter 1, is to just run away.
To drop the bow and go?
Drop the bow, go live in a cave, eat berries. That is a form of sannyasa renunciation, quitting.
I'm going to move to a cabin in the woods and throw away my phone fantasy. I think we have all had that fantasy, usually around 2:00 p.m. on a Tuesday.
We've all had it, absolutely. But Krishna is offering something else. He's offering tyaga, which is, no, stay in the city, keep the phone, fight the war, but change the entire wiring so the stress doesn't touch you.
So this entire deep dive is basically about how to live in the modern world, with the deadlines, the traffic, the difficult bosses, and the whole mess of it all without burning out.
That is exactly it. This chapter is the ultimate antidote to burnout. It transforms the idea of duty from this heavy, crushing burden into something closer to a flow state.
I love that framing. So we have a lot of sources today, the text of Chapter 18 itself, obviously, but also some really dense, fascinating commentaries from the Dvaita tradition, referencing scholars like Sri Madhvacharya and Raya.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack the three modes of living, the myth that we are self-made, and finally, the ultimate secret of surrender.
And we should probably warn you, the listener, we're going to get into some specific categories the Gita uses: sattva, rajas, and tamas.
Arjuna matrix.
The guna matrix. And I promise, once you understand these three, you will start seeing them everywhere.
Oh, everywhere.
In your breakfast, in your emails, in your Netflix queue. It's unavoidable.
I've already diagnosed my morning coffee habit as intensely rajasic, but we'll get to that. Let's start with that opening question from Arjuna, Section 1, the art of letting go. Arjuna asks, what is the difference between sannyasa and tyaga? What does the text actually say?
So the source text defines sannyasa, that's renunciation, as the abandonment of activities that are driven purely by desire. The Sanskrit term for that is kamya karma.
Kamya karma, desire-bound action. That makes sense.
Right. So this means you stop doing things just because you want a specific personal reward. I'm doing this ritual so I get a son. I'm taking this job only so I can get rich.
The purely transactional stuff.
Purely transactional. Sannyasa is abandoning that kind of selfish hustle. It's saying, if I can't get something out of it for me, I won't do it. Renouncing that whole mindset is sannyasa.
Okay, so it's stopping the actions that are purely for me.
Got it. Correct. Now, contrast that with tyaga, relinquishment. Tyaga is defined as performing the action, actually doing the work, but abandoning the fruit of the action. You let go of the result.
This is subtle.
Yep.
Okay, so sannyasa is, I'm not going to do this selfish thing. Tyaga is, I'm going to do this necessary thing, but I don't own the outcome.
Yes. And verse 3 mentions there was actually a big debate among philosophers at the time. Some wise people said, look, action itself is flawed. All action creates karma. It creates a mess.
Entanglement.
Right. If you light a fire, there's smoke. If you eat, you kill a plant. If you walk, you might step on an ant. So just stop doing everything. Sit still. That is freedom.
The do-nothing approach, which sounds great until you get hungry.
Right. The ultimate cave approach. But others said, no, you can't do that. You should never stop acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance. These are purifying actions.
So there was a real tension there.
A huge tension. And the verdict that comes down in verse 6, this is Krishna's verdict, is very specific. He says, you don't stop doing things. You stop the ego attached to them. You perform these acts, but you do them without attachment or desire for the fruits.
The commentary we have uses a great analogy here about an artist. Let's break that down, because I think that really makes it click.
It's a perfect modern example. So imagine a painter. A sannyasi in the extreme sense, the one who wants to avoid all pain and all karmic entanglement, might say, painting leads to criticism. It leads to the stress of trying to sell art. It leads to attachment to beauty and fame. So, to be peaceful, I will smash my brushes and never paint again.
That's avoiding the problem.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of tragic. You're denying your gift. No art gets made.
Exactly. It's a sterile, empty kind of peace.
Yeah.
Now, take the tyagi, someone practicing relinquishment. This artist says, I'm going to paint because it is my nature. It is my gift. It is the thing I must do.
Okay.
I will paint the best canvas I can. I will pour my soul into it. I will use all my skill.
Okay, so the effort is there. They aren't slacking off or being lazy about it.
The effort is 100%, maybe even 110%. But then, and this is the key, they say, once I put the brush down, I don't care.
You don't care.
I don't care if it sells for $1 million or if it sits in my closet. I don't care if people like it on Instagram. I don't care if the critics rip it apart. The act of painting was the offering. The result is not my business.
Wow. That sounds incredibly liberating.
Well,
I mean, to be able to create without that constant anxiety of, is this good enough?
That is the flow state. When you're truly in the zone, are you worrying about the paycheck? Are you worried about the performance review? No, you're just painting or coding or writing or whatever it is.
Yeah, you're just absorbed.
You're absorbed. The anxiety comes from the attachment to the result. Will they like it? Will it sell? Will I get the promotion? If you cut that cord, you are free while you work.
But let's be real, that is really, really hard. Because we are wired to want the like, right?
Yeah.
We want the promotion. We want the applause. We live in an economy that is entirely based on results.
We are. It's our default setting. But the Gita gives a harsh reality check in verse 11. It says very plainly, one with a physical body can never completely renounce all activities.
You can't.
It's impossible.
Because even breathing is an activity.
Digestion is an activity. Blinking is an activity. Your heart beating is an activity. You literally cannot stop acting unless you are dead.
Right.
So the idea of total physical renunciation, of just doing nothing, is a myth for anyone who is alive. Therefore, tyaga, that internal detachment, that relinquishment of the fruit, is the only practical path for a human being. You have to be in the game. The only question is, how are you playing it?
This reminds me of that old Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water.
Exactly.
The action doesn't change, the mindset does.
Precisely. And the commentary adds another layer about prescribed duties. It mentions that even if you are a monk, you still have duties, teaching, studying, preaching. You can't just abandon them. If you're a parent, you have duties. You can't just say, this is too hard and walk away.
So the text says abandoning these duties because they are difficult or painful is not a spiritual act.
It's the opposite. It says that's actually a lower form of renunciation. It's called rajasic renunciation if you quit because it's painful, and tamasic renunciation if you quit out of delusion or laziness.
Wait, so quitting your job just because it's too hard isn't a spiritual move? I feel like a lot of self-help gurus might disagree.
According to the Gita, no. That's just running away from discomfort. True spirituality, or sattvic tyaga, is doing the hard job without letting the hardness break you. It's about building resilience, not just avoiding challenges.
That leads us perfectly into the next section. Because the Gita doesn't just say do your duty. It gives us this incredible framework for how our minds work while we do it. And this is where we get into the Guna matrix.
The gunas. This is the psychological engine of the entire Gita, and it's on full display in chapter 18.
The source text explains that everything, knowledge, action, happiness, your intellect, even the type of food you like, comes in 3 flavors: sattva, rajas, and tamas.
Let's define them simply first, just to get a handle on them. Sattva is balance, purity, light, harmony, clarity. It's the cool mode. When you are calm, collected, and seeing things clearly, you are in sattva.
Okay, cool, calm, clear, sattva.
Then there's rajas. Rajas is passion, energy, ego, ambition, movement, fire. It's the heat. When you are rushing, ambitious, stressed, agitated, or craving something, you are in rajas.
Heat, action, stress, rajas, and tamas.
Tamas is darkness, inertia, ignorance, laziness, heaviness. It's the weight. When you are confused, procrastinating, feeling dull, or just totally checked out, that is tamas.
So light, heat, and weight. I like that. Let's apply this. The outline mentions 3 types of knowledge from verses 20 to 22. How does a sattvic person see the world versus a rajasic person?
Okay, so sattvic knowledge, the text says, is seeing the oneness in everything. It's the ability to look at a CEO and a janitor and see the exact same life force, the same divine spark within both.
You see the underlying unity.
Yes, you see the unity behind the diversity. You don't get distracted by the costume, the job title, the bank account. You see the shared essence.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Not distracted by the costume.
Right. Now, rajasic knowledge, that's the default for most of us. It sees everything as separate and competitive. It's me versus you. It's all about hierarchies.
My team versus your team. My country versus your country.
Exactly. I am better than him. She is a threat to me. It emphasizes difference. It looks at the CEO and sees success power, and it looks at the janitor and sees failure irrelevance. It's constantly comparing and ranking.
It's judgmental.
Highly judgmental. And it creates a lot of anxiety because if everyone is separate, then everyone is a potential enemy or a competitor you have to beat.
That sounds exhausting. And tamasic knowledge.
Tamasic knowledge is fixation on one small part and calling it the whole. It's dogmatic, it's irrational, it's the person who thinks, my little group is the only thing that matters, everyone else is evil, and I refuse to look at any evidence to the contrary.
It's a closed loop.
It's a closed loop. It lacks perspective entirely. It's clinging to one tiny fragment of truth and ignoring the rest of the universe. It's the definition of delusion.
Okay, that's knowledge. Now let's talk about action, because I think this connects directly to that hustle culture idea we touched on earlier.
Oh, absolutely. Verses 23 to 25 describe the 3 types of action.
What is rajasic action? Let's start there because it feels so modern.
The text describes rajasic action as action performed with great effort, with a lot of ego, and with a desperate desire for a specific result.
Great effort. That sounds like a compliment in our culture. He's giving 110%. She's a real grinder.
It sounds like a compliment, but the Sanskrit implies strain. It's the badge of honor in
Right.
modern work culture, isn't it? I'm grinding, I'm hustling, I'm sleeping 4 hours a night.
The whole team no sleep crowd.
Exactly. But the Gita asks, why are they doing it? And usually it's to be seen doing it, or to get the big promotion, the big payout, the public recognition. It's completely result-oriented. I am doing this so I can be seen as a winner. That is rajas. And the Gita warns that this ultimately leads to misery. It burns you out because you are running on the fuel of adrenaline and ego, not inspiration.
So what's the alternative? Contrast that with sattvic action.
Sattvic action is done without attachment, without love or hate for the action itself. It's just doing what needs to be done. It's efficient. It's calm. You aren't wasting energy on the anxiety of what if I fail or what will they think of me. It's clean. It's very clean. You are just fully immersed in the doing. This is the flow state again.
Yeah.
The ego quiets down. You aren't trying hard. You are just functioning perfectly. Think about a master craftsman, a surgeon, or a great musician. They don't look like they're struggling. They make it look effortless.
Because all their energy is going into the action, not into the worry about the action.
Precisely. That is sattvic action.
And tamasic action.
That's reckless. It's undertaken through delusion, acting without thinking of the consequences, your own capacity, or the harm it might cause.
So like drunk driving.
Drunk driving is a perfect tamasic action. Sending an angry, typo-filled email at 2 a.m. without reading it over is tamasic action. It ignores harm to self and others. It's just blind impulse or gross negligence.
I feel called out on the email thing.
Yeah.
But here is the part that really, really blew my mind when I was reading the source material. The 3 types of happiness, verses 36 to 39. This flips our entire understanding of what feels good completely upside down.
It does. It's one of the most practical and, frankly, challenging parts of the whole book. It's completely counterintuitive.
So describe sattvic happiness.
The text says sattvic happiness is that which is poison in the beginning, but nectar in the end.
Poison first. Why would anyone want that?
Like ways. Well, think about waking up at 5 a.m. to go for a run or hit the gym.
Poison. Definitely poison. The word doesn't even begin to describe it.
Your body hates it. It's cold, you're tired, your bed is warm, every cell in your brain is screaming, stop, go back to sleep. That is the poison. But how do you feel at 7 a.m. when you're done?
Amazing. Energized. Accomplished. I feel like I can take on the world. My mood is elevated for the rest of the day. The nectar.
That's the nectar. Sattvic happiness comes from discipline. It requires an upfront investment of discomfort.
Give me another one.
Saving money. It hurts to not buy that new gadget today. That's the poison. But the financial security, the freedom from debt 10 years from now, that's the nectar.
Studying for an exam is poison. The knowledge and the career brings is nectar.
Exactly. So sattva is delayed gratification.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, rajasic happiness.
That's the opposite. Nectar in the beginning, poison in the end.
Okay, so eating an entire pizza by myself while watching TV.
The perfect example. It is delicious in the moment. Absolute nectar. The cheese, the carbs. Pure, unadulterated bliss for about 12 minutes.
And then an hour later.
You feel sick, lethargic, bloated, full of regret. Poison.
Doom scrolling on social media fits this perfectly too, right? It feels stimulating. You get that dopamine hit, that little bit of nectar, but 2 hours later you just feel drained and anxious and like you've wasted your life.
Perfectly rajasic, impulse shopping, gossiping, having that extra drink, they all follow the same pattern. Feels great now, feels awful later.
Right.
And the Gita is telling us human beings are biologically and culturally addicted to the nectar first model. We want the quick hit. We want the easy fix. But if you want genuine, sustainable, long-term peace, you have to train your brain to accept the poison first option. You have to learn to fall in love with the discipline.
But it's such a powerful tool for self-audit. You can just look at any choice you're making and ask, is this poison first or nectar first? And if it's nectar first, you should at least be wary.
Exactly. It's a warning sign. Proceed with caution.
And finally, tamasic happiness.
That is happiness born of sleep, laziness, and confusion. The text says it deludes the mind from start to finish. It's the happiness of just checking out completely.
So this isn't resting to recharge, which would be sattvic.
No, this is checking out to escape reality. It's the person who stays in bed all day, not because they are sick, but because they can't face the day. Or getting wasted just to numb the pain. There is no real nectar there at any point, just a dull, heavy fog.
So if we look at our lives, we can kind of map ourselves on this matrix. Am I thinking rajasically right now? Am I acting tamasically? It gives you a vocabulary to diagnose and maybe fix your own behavior.
And it's not judgmental in a you are a bad person way. It's mechanical. It's a user manual for the human mind. It just says, if you input rajas, you will output stress. If you input sattva, you will output peace. It's just cause and effect.
Okay, let's move to section 3.
Yeah.
Because even if we act sattvically, even if we do the work without attachment, we still have this nagging voice in our heads that says, I did this, I achieved this, I am the winner, or, the opposite. I messed up, I am a failure.
The myth of the self-made man.
Right. This is the concept of doership. And the source material breaks down the 5 factors of action starting in verse 13. Why does the Gita want us to know this? What's the point?
The point is to shatter the ego, to dismantle this illusion that I am the sole doer of anything.
Okay.
The Gita draws from the Sankhya philosophy here.
Well,
we tend to think, I am the doer. It's a very simple equation in our minds. But the text says, hold on. For any action to happen, let's say for us to record this podcast right now, there are actually 5 distinct factors involved.
Let's listen. What's the first one?
First, the body, or more broadly, the place of action, the seat. We need our vocal cords. We need the studio. We need a physical reality to exist in. That's factor 1.
Okay, the physical setup.
Second, the doer, the jiva, which is the individual soul or consciousness, the agent. That's you. That's the part that says I.
So that's me, the agent. Third.
Third, the apparatus, your senses, your mind, but also the external instruments, the microphone, the computer, the software, all the tools.
Okay, and fourth is the effort.
Right, the various kinds of effort, the energy we put in, the research we did, the actual act of speaking.
Okay, those four seem to cover it pretty well. I'm here, I'm trying, I have a body, and I have tools. What's missing?
There's a fifth, and it's the one we always forget. It's Daivam,
Devam.
providence, destiny, the divine will, the
Yeah.
X factor.
The X factor.
It's the variable you cannot control. You can have the best body, the best equipment, the best effort, and the best intention, and the power can go out.
All right.
Or the internet server crashes. Or the listener just isn't in the mood for a podcast today. Or you wake up with a sore throat 5 minutes before recording and can't speak.
So Daivam is the humbling recognition that we don't control the final outcome.
Exactly. And this isn't meant to discourage us. It's meant to relieve us. If you truly, deeply understand that you are only 1/5 of the equation, you stop taking total credit for your successes. I built this company. Well, yes, you put in the effort, but Daivam also kept the market stable and kept you healthy and put you in the right place at the right time with the right idea.
It forces humility. It's the antidote to arrogance.
Yes, but maybe more importantly, you stop taking total blame for your failures. I ruin everything. I'm a total failure. Well, maybe you made a mistake. Or maybe Daivam just had other plans. It reduces that crushing, paralyzing weight of personal responsibility for things that are ultimately outside your control.
That is huge. So if I fail, can I just blame the X factor? Sorry, bots. Daivam didn't want the report in on time.
Well, you have to be careful. The text is very clear that you are responsible for the effort. That's factor number 4. You control the attempt. You can't be lazy and just blame God.
So you have to give it your all.
You have to give it your all. But you must acknowledge that the final result is a collaboration between you and the universe. You are a co-author, not the sole author of your life.
Okay. There's a very controversial verse in this section, verse 17. I want to read it. It says, "He who is free from the notion of ego, whose intelligence is not tainted, though he kills all these people, he neither kills nor is he bound." That sounds dangerous.
It does. Taken out of context, it sounds like a license to do terrible things. But we have to remember where we are. Arjuna is a soldier. His duty, his swadharma, is to fight a war against injustice. He is terrified of the karma, the sin of killing.
Right. He doesn't want the blood on his hands. He's a good person.
He is. And Krishna is explaining that if you act purely as an instrument of duty, without personal hatred, without ego, without saying, I want to kill this guy because he insulted me, or I want his kingdom, then you incur no karma.
So it's all about the intent, the inner state.
It's entirely about the inner state. Think of a surgeon. A surgeon cuts people open with a knife. If I did that to someone on the street, it's aggravated assault, a violent crime.
Right.
When a surgeon does it in an operating room to save a life, it's a noble duty. The physical action is the same, cutting flesh, but the intent, the role, and the lack of malice make it completely different. The surgeon has no personal hatred for the patient. They are acting as an instrument of healing.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's about being an instrument for a higher purpose, not a vehicle for your own ego.
Yes. And verse 61 gives this vivid, unforgettable image. It says, "The Lord resides in the heart of all beings, spinning them around as if they are mounted on a machine made of Maya." The word used is yantra, a machine, a device.
We're riders on a machine. That's a wild image.
We are the writers. We aren't the mechanics. We aren't the engineers who designed it. We are just writing. And this relieves the pressure of trying to save the world single-handedly. You just steer your little part of the machine as best you can in alignment with the bigger design.
I find that oddly comforting. It's not all on my shoulders. Which leads us to the next big question. If I'm just a writer, what lane should I be in? How do I know what my specific job on this machine is?
This is section 4, finding your lane, or as the Gita calls it, swadharma, your own personal duty.
Now, the text here talks about the 4 categories: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras. And usually when people hear this, their mind immediately goes to the caste system, and there's a lot of historical baggage there.
There is.
But the commentary is very specific here, that this isn't just about birth.
It is. The commentary from this particular school of thought emphasizes that these categories are based on gunas, your innate nature and your activities. In a modern context, we should look at these as personality types or natural aptitudes. It's almost like a spiritual Myers-Briggs test.
Okay, I like that. So let's break them down as personality types. Who are the Brahmins today?
These are the intellectuals, the researchers, the teachers, the scientists, the philosophers. Their dominant guna is sattva. They value serenity, self-control, knowledge, contemplation. In the body analogy, they are the head of society. They are the ones who think, learn, and guide.
Okay. And the Kshatriyas.
These are the protectors, the administrators, the leaders, the folks who get things done and maintain order. High energy, a mixture of rajas and sattva. They value valor, leadership, decisiveness, not running from conflict. The arms of society. Police, military, politicians in an ideal world. Managers, CEOs.
Vaichas.
Commerce, agriculture, trade. The people who understand value, exchange, and sustaining the economy. Driven primarily by rajas. The thighs or the torso that supports the body. Entrepreneurs, business owners, traders, farmers.
And Sudras.
Service, support, craftsmanship, the people who actually build and maintain the physical world. The legs that the whole body stands on. And the text is clear, all are necessary. You can't have a body with just a head. If everyone was a philosopher, who would grow the food?
And if everyone was a soldier, who would build the house?
Exactly. Each role is vital to the whole.
But the text has this rule that I think is the most important piece of career advice ever written. It's in verse 47. Better is one's own duty, though imperfect, than the duty of another well performed.
The better imperfect rule, it is so profound.
It's basically saying it is better to be a mediocre writer, if that is your true nature, than to be a successful accountant if you absolutely hate numbers.
Yes, because if you try to be something you are not, just for the money or the prestige or because your parents wanted you to, you are fighting your own nature every single day.
That creates internal friction.
That is the very definition of stress. The Gita calls it fearful to follow another's path. It alienates you from your true self. You become a stranger to yourself.
But we do this all the time. We look at other people's lives on social media and think, oh, look at their perfect job, I should do that. Being a travel influencer looks amazing.
And verse 48 gives us the perfect smoke metaphor to shut down that kind of envy.
Right. All undertakings are clouded by defects as fire by smoke.
Every single fire has smoke. Every single job has smoke. There is no perfect smokeless situation.
Give me an example.
Okay, you look at the CEO and you think, what a life. Private jets, power, money, that's the bright fire. But you don't see the smoke, the 80-hour weeks, the stress, the heart attacks, the lack of time with their kids, the constant public scrutiny, the weight of thousands of employees' livelihoods on their shoulders.
That's their smoke.
That's their smoke. Or the rock star.
You see the fire, the fame, the adoration, the creativity.
But you don't see the smoke. The loneliness of the tour bus, the addiction problems, the financial instability, the fact that they can't walk down the street to buy milk without being mobbed. That's the smoke.
So the advice is to stop looking for a smokeless fire.
Exactly. It doesn't exist. Pick the fire that keeps you warm, the one that aligns with your nature, and then learn to tolerate its particular brand of smoke. Just do the work suited to you. If you are a teacher, teach. Don't try to be a banker just because it pays more if it kills your soul. Embrace the smoke of your own fire.
That is incredibly practical.
Yeah.
Stop waiting for the perfect scenario that will never come. Just do your thing.
Yes.
Okay, so we are approaching the end of the chapter now, and the end of the whole teaching. We've talked about letting go of results, understanding our nature, knowing we aren't the sole doer. Now, Krishna pivots. He changes his tone. This is section 5, the ultimate secret.
This is where it all leads. Surrender.
Up until now, Krishna has been very logical.
Wow.
Analyze the gunas, analyze the action, analyze the 5 factors. It's been a masterclass in psychology. But now, in verse 63, Krishna finishes the teaching and says something completely surprising. He says, Yathachasi tathakuru.
Do as you wish.
Do as you wish. After 18 chapters of the most detailed instruction imaginable, after explaining the entire universe, he just says, do whatever you want. What is that about?
It's the ultimate respect for free will. He's not a dictator. He's a guide. He lays out the truth. He gives Arjuna the map, shows him the mechanics of karma, the peace of surrender, the cost of ego, and then he says, now you choose.
It's an invitation, not a command.
It has to be. Love requires freedom. If he forced Arjuna to fight, it wouldn't be devotion, it would be programming, it would be robotic. The choice has to be Arjuna's.
But he doesn't leave it there. He adds a little PS, a final appeal.
He does. He can't help himself. He follows it up with what is often called the final promise. In verses 64 and 65, he says, listen again to my supreme word, the most secret of all, for you are dearly beloved by me.
You are dear to me. That feels different. That feels personal, emotional.
It is. It's the warm embrace after the strict lecture. Up until now, it's been a classroom. Now it's a hug. He's speaking from the heart. And then comes verse 66, which many scholars consider the most important verse in the entire Mahabharata.
What does it say?
Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion or dharma and surrender unto me alone.
Okay, let's unpack surrender. Because to a modern Western ear, surrender sounds like losing. It sounds like giving up. I surrender, don't shoot, white flag.
That's not the meaning here at all. The Sanskrit word is sharanagati. It means seeking refuge. It's not giving up on the action, it's giving up on the anxiety of the result. It's the final step.
What do you mean?
It's admitting that after all your logic, all your effort, all your analysis of the gunas, you are small, the universe is big, and you finally trust the driver of the machine. It's not helplessness, it's the ultimate act of trust.
The source material had an interesting note here from a scholar named Sri Vidisha Tirtha regarding this verse. It's a bit technical, but I think it's really cool.
Yes, this is a deep dive special. The commentary breaks down the Sanskrit phrase, mam ekam, to me alone. But it suggests it can be read as a combination of three words, ma plus me plus kam.
Okay, break that down for us.
Ma implies negation or protection. It's a particle that can mean do not or don't fear. Me refers to the Lord, to Narayana. And Kam refers to Ka, which is a name for the deity Vayu, the life force, the cosmic breath.
So it's not just surrender to me, it's surrendering to the power that drives the universe and the breath that drives your own body.
Exactly. It's acknowledging the source of all your energy. It's a profound shift in perspective. It's saying, I am not the battery, I am just the device, you are the electricity. That is surrender. It's plugging into the source. It relieves you of the impossible burden of trying to generate your own power.
So how does Arjuna react to all this? This is the grand finale. Does he jump up and cheer? Does he high-five Krishna?
Section 6, the aftermath, verse 73. Arjuna says simply, my delusion is destroyed.
Nastomo.
And then he adds, I have regained my memory.
Memory. He says memory. That's a strange word to use.
Think about that. He doesn't say, I learned something new. He says, I remember who I am. I remember my duty. I remember my true nature. The implication is that confusion is a form of forgetting. We forget our nature. We forget the gunas. We forget we aren't the soul doer. We forget our connection to the divine. Clarity is simply remembering. And then he says, I am firm. My doubts are gone. I will act according to your word.
He is ready to fight, not out of anger or revenge, but out of duty. He is steady. He has found his center.
His paralysis is gone.
And then we have Sanjaya. We haven't talked much about Sanjaya, but he's the narrator, the guy with the divine sight, who is reporting all this back to the blind king Dhritarashtra.
And Sanjaya is having a full-blown spiritual experience. He says his hair is standing on end, just repeating this dialogue. He says he is rejoicing again and again. He's completely blown away by what he has witnessed.
And he ends the entire Gita with the final verse, 78. Which is like a formula for success in life.
The ultimate formula. What is it?
He says, wherever there is Krishna, the Lord of Yoga, and wherever there is Arjuna, the wielder of the bow, there will be victory, prosperity, and justice.
Krishna plus Arjuna, victory.
Let's break that down. Think about what they represent. Krishna is vision, grace, wisdom, the strategy, the guide. He holds no weapon in this fight. He just drives the chariot and gives the wisdom.
And Arjuna?
Arjuna is action, the bow, the effort, the grit, the hustle, the implementation. He has to actually do the work.
So you need both.
You absolutely need both. You can't just sit in a room and pray to Krishna and expect the war to be won. That's Krishna without Arjuna. That's just magical thinking. That's spiritual bypassing.
Right, and you also can't just grind and hustle and shoot arrows in every direction without wisdom or a moral compass. That's Arjuna without Krishna.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That leads to burnout, destruction, or, aiming at the wrong target and winning a battle you shouldn't have been fighting in the first place. You need the vision and the hustle, the grace and the grit, the prayer and the practice.
And there is that fascinating detail in the commentary about the flag on Arjuna's chariot.
Oh, right. The Hanuman connection. Tell us about that.
The commentary notes that on the flag of Arjuna's chariot there is an image of Hanuman, and Hanuman represents the breath of life, Vayu, immense strength, and total unwavering devotion. So this final verse isn't just about Krishna and Arjuna the people.
It's symbolic.
It's symbolic. It reinforces that same idea. Divine grace, Krishna, plus indomitable human strength and effort, Arjuna, powered by Hanuman Vayu, equals success. It's a complete holistic picture. You need the power of the wind in your sails and a guidance of the Lord at the helm.
I love that. So let's bring this all down to earth for our listeners. We've covered a huge amount of ground. Renunciation, the gunas, doership, surrender. If we had to synthesize this into a few practical takeaways for someone listening on their commute right now, what would they be?
I think there are three main takeaways from Chapter 18 that you can apply, tomorrow morning.
Okay. Number 1.
Check your happiness. Seriously, audit your daily habits. Are you chasing the nectar-first happiness, the junk food, the procrastination, the easy way out? Or are you willing to embrace the poison-first happiness, the discipline, the hard conversation, the workout that leads to lasting peace? It's a conscious choice to move from rajas to sattva. Train your brain to like the poison.
That's a good one. It's a real challenge. Number 2.
Do your own duty, even if it has smoke. Stop fantasizing about a perfect life or someone else's career on Instagram. Accept the inherent downsides of your own path and do the work that genuinely suits your nature. It's better to be an imperfect you than a perfect fake.
And number 3.
Act with full effort, but hand over the results. Use the 5 factors to check your ego. You provide the effort. You provide the apparatus. You show up. But you have to let the X factor, that Daivam, handle the outcome. That is the secret to working without burnout. That is true freedom in action.
That brings us back to the very beginning of the chapter. Renunciation isn't quitting your job, it's quitting the anxiety about your job.
Precisely. It's not about what you do with your hands, it's about what you do with your mind.
So I have one final thought to leave you, the listener, with.
Yeah.
We talked about that machine, the yantra. We talked about us being the riders, not the mechanics. If the Lord or the universe or the life force, whatever you want to call it, is actually the one running the machine of your life.
Here comes the provocative question.
What is one burden, one worry, one heavy piece of luggage that you are carrying right now that you can mentally hand over to the driver? If you aren't actually driving, why are you gripping the wheel so tight that your knuckles are turning white?
That's a thought worth sitting with for a while.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. This has been a real journey through the Gita.
It has. Thank you for listening.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Goodbye.
Take care.